Hi, it's Michelle Butt, and I am back with the second of our series in understanding the faces of the 2019 Prime Minister candidates for the Canadian federal election. And today we are looking at Elizabeth May. Elizabeth May is the Green Party candidate. And if we take a look at her face at first glance, one of the things that pops out at me most is, again, those eyes. If we look at her eyes, very similar to those of Justin Trudeau's that we discussed yesterday. A marked difference in the openness of the eye and the way the eye is held open from the right side to the left side. In fact, here with Elizabeth, it's even more pronounced than in the photos we saw yesterday of Justin Trudeau. If you recall, this really speaks to someone who is less open in their public life in terms of receiving information and giving information. Someone who potentially holds their cards much closer to the vest might be less trusting and potentially less trustable depending on the situation. So someone who is way more open in their private life and less open in their public life. Now, being in the public eye, that might be a function of this, but this is quite a pronounced difference on her face and very hard to miss. Even if you aren't a facial intelligence expert, you're going to notice this difference on her face. So we would have to think about her openness and communication potentially. However, if we look at her rounded eyebrows, those nice rounded eyebrows tell us that this is someone who, in their decision-making strategy, very strongly considers what is important for the people concerned in the results of that decision. So very much a people-centered decision maker. And so she values people almost as much, if not more so, than she would value the logic of the outcome. This is also someone who has some really nice full upper cheeks, full and rounded. So this is someone who is comfortable in an authoritative space and has the ability to convey her message authoritatively with warmth and compassion and come across very much like she is asking you to do something in a really, really kind way, so you want to follow her lead in essence. What we also notice is that when you look at her, say in this smiling photo, that her eyes, despite the difference in their openness, they're sparkly and there's a warmth to her that really says, I am a people person. I am concerned about people. People are my language. So she has lots of nurture capabilities to her face that really says that she is about building relationships with people. Yet, when we see some other photos of her face, we see some of the toll of being so people-centered on her face. So if we take a look at specifically here, these lines that come down on the sides of her mouth, this is very much about someone who may feel at times like they are a victim, like they overgive, like they do so much and things don't always work out the way that they want to work out. They want them to work out. These lines potentially indicate someone who has been disappointed or has a theme of disappointment and a theme of overgiving in their life. Now, if you're out there fighting for a cause, that might be where you end up. But if we look at her face here and we recall any faces of Hillary Clinton in the last American election, she had very similar lines around her mouth. And they, to me, indicated where her efforts would go in terms of winning that election, just from the sheer fact of saying what these lines indicate. So when you see these lines, this is really someone who feels like they have been or has the potential to feel like. The lines are showing a pattern of, I'm doing this, but it doesn't work out. I'm doing this, but I'm disappointed. I'm doing this, but I feel like everyone's against me. So potential to feel like a victim. And if you want to be in a leadership role, you really have to have your language match what your face is saying, and your face should be saying, I'm a victor. So that may be the one drawback that might affect Elizabeth May's campaign if we're looking at her strictly from a facial intelligence perspective and what her face is saying. So I want to remind you that why I'm doing this is to help you to see that the face can tell you what someone's personality and behavior might be, what their emotional stance is, and if the face may or may not match what they're actually saying, then you would want to consider that potentially in your decision as to whether or not you're going to put them in charge of all the things that are important to you. So again, we see those lines here, and we also see some stippling in her chin, which is indicating to us that this is someone who has been pushing hard. They've been using up a lot of their willpower. Now, she has a pretty strong chin in general, so someone who's very tenacious. But when we see this kind of stippling showing up, that may mean that this person has been pushing and pushing and pushing, and they may be wearing down their battery. They may be feeling a little bit like they're pushing up against a brick wall and they're weary. Okay, and then here in this photo, what we see is, again, despite those other two slides, this very warm face, some dimples showing up here, so someone who has the potential to be very charismatic and charming, and we know by her cheeks that she has the ability to speak gracefully and compassionately when she's speaking. So this is someone you might actually want to have a conversation with and may think that she's on your side. However, we also want to take a little bit of a closer look at the fact that in many photos we see these visible gums when she smiles. And visible gums are really an indication potentially of someone who really needs to be in the thick of things. They kind of have this need to be in the middle of stuff, almost like being in the drama or being a little bit too potentially needy. So, you know, what her party may represent might be something of being in the fray and really, really needing to be in the middle of things. But this is an indication of really someone who potentially might need more attention from other people and might potentially look to get that attention in whatever way possible. Whether that's from a sympathetic point of view or a controversial point of view, she will get herself into the middle of things because she is really there needing to be in the center of people. So that is Elizabeth May. I hope that you enjoyed this take on her, this brief take. Again, remember, there's so much more to say about faces because I'm only giving you a snapshot, but hopefully this is helping you think a little bit more about what the candidates' faces are saying as well as what their words say. So I'll see you tomorrow with the next one. Bye for now.